Holy freaking cow. What you just watched there was a, quote, shock test of a U.S. aircraft carrier that blew up a 40,000-pound bomb that triggered a 3.9 earthquake that was felt in American cities over 100 miles away. That right there is some military-industrial complex privilege, to say the least. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Rudowski of WeAreChange.org. A lot of very important news to get into today about one of the world's richest and most powerful people and the ever-so-troubling developments on our food supply chain. Now, jumping right into the news, as major American cities are being overrun by bedlam, some, like in Portland, Oregon, are even embracing the utter chaos and destruction of normal life, as Portland's tourism board literally just took a full-page ad in the New York Times saying that the riot-hit city has an edge, which they still somehow claim locals love it somehow. Yep, and this is where your tax dollars are going to. As violent criminals are becoming more prominent and powerful in American cities, the FBI, on the other hand, is deciding to go after and prosecute, or some would even say set up, for their political beliefs, as of course in yesterday's video, which you should definitely watch, we covered extensively how the FBI admittedly knew what was going to happen on January 6th and yet didn't intervene or even prepare for it in any way. How much did the FBI know? Well, those are important questions that should be asked. As of right now, they're not being asked. And in related rioting news, we also learned today that if you riot and have a political opinion that's favorable to the establishment, you're not going to get the FBI at the door. You're going to get all of your charges dropped, as right now, the state of New York just announced that hundreds of looters that brazenly destroyed businesses all throughout New York City are having all of their charges dropped without explanation, with the majority of the cases in the Bronx being outright dismissed, some of the charges lowered to trespassing, and this is leaving many business owners, like highlighted in this NBC News story, shocked that this is happening, but it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that's been watching this YouTube channel. Now, as the FBI tracks, trace, and databases everyone for wrongthink, Google, of course, who they work in partnership with, is also automatically downloading a tracking app for the government to use, which many users report was automatically installed on their devices without their consent or even knowledge. Google is not also in hot water for this absolutely creepy violation of people's privacy, but also the fact that today it was revealed that Google was behind the funding of the very dangerous gain-of-function research that was carried out by Peter Daszak with EcoHealth Alliance at the Level 3 Wuhan laboratory. And Google has been financing this extremely controversial figure in the center of all of the madness for over a decade. It is still unknown the exact amount of money that Google gave to Peter Daszak, which directly went to the Level 3 Wuhan laboratory. And it's not just Google shilling out and giving Peter Daszak unknown amount of money. It's also the U.S. Pentagon that gave EcoHealth Alliance and Peter Daszak $39 million. And you have to ask yourself the larger question, why would the Pentagon, which is predominantly focused on attacking and destroying, be doing very dangerous gain-of-function research, which many medical professionals have said is used mainly as a cover for bioweapons? Now, Peter Daszak is implicated in many very serious allegations against him, which of course he helps obfuscate and censor by working with big tech social media companies in order to, quote, combat disinformation, which also at the same time conveniently covers up his tracks and doesn't implicate him on the huge conflict of interest that he is involved here. Now, this, along with Google, that just proved that they have no care and consideration for your privacy, literally installing a government tracking app without you even knowing, without you even being able to uninstall it, with it even being hidden away from you. You have to ask yourselves, what else is Google doing here that we don't even know about? Peter Daszak, by the way, the man in the center of all of this controversy, was just officially fired from the UN Commission investigation that was investigating his work. Yes, the man that was investigating his work was fired from doing so by the United Nations, finally, officially. This was, of course, way long overdue, since he was suppressing the possibility of him being implicated here in any way of this sickness potentially coming from a laboratory, which there is some data suggesting that there's a high probability that this was the case. There's less probability that this was all caused by a dude putting a bat in his mouth. That theory absolutely is ridiculous on many levels. We went into the science here many times over a year ago, a year plus, on this independent media channel. We were telling you all the disinformation propaganda surrounding all of this, which was organized by Peter Daszak. And I have a lot more to say about this, as well as the shocking announcement by the World Health Organization that, of course, I will be talking about extensively on LukeUncensored.com if you want to support independent media and also get the larger truths that sadly we cannot talk about here. Go check out LukeUncensored.com. Today's video is definitely going to be a very important one. Also, if you're interested in potentially having a second residency, another passport, specifically in the country of Belize, check out relocatesafe.com. The link is down in the description below, and you can check out all the amazing developments that ECI, a company that we are working with, is going to be able to provide people on a Zoom call that they will be doing this Tuesday. Now, when very powerful, unaccountable individuals are able to narrate mainstream media headlines, are able to control the narrative and push an agenda, we have to understand that there should be absolute skepticism and scrutiny of these individuals and not praise. But the mainstream media, of course, praises these individuals like Bill Gates and routinely kisses their buttocks and brown noses them to horrific levels that cannot even be described here. Like this CNBC psychological propaganda disinformation piece that is being portrayed as actual journalism. And no, this is just PR for the super rich with bootlicking headlines like, quote, 5 books that Bill Gates recommends for your summer reading. And personally, someone who has ties to population control, eugenicists, and also is a good buddy friend of Mr. Epstein is not someone I want to take reading advice from. That's just me. He's also a ruthless billionaire that right now, according to Forbes, is aiming to stop the destruction of our food supply. Yes, Bill Gates' company Enco just announced a new initiative with more generalized buzzwords about sustainability, safe solutions to fight against, quote, pests, weeds, and diseases for farmers across the world in order to, quote, reduce development and, quote, production time. This is also at the same time that the USDA just announced that they're investing billions of dollars to fix the food supply chain disruptions that have been happening in this country, mainly because of failed government policies that other government agencies implemented. We talked about this last year, especially when it came to the mass slaughter of farm animals and the disruption of the food supply chain, which absolutely was harrowing to learn about. As many farm animals were euthanized on the orders of governments, the food supply chain still hasn't recovered. It is still extensively strained, and for the foreseeable future, it will still continue to be so, as there is not only a supply chain shortage, but also a worker shortage in the United States because of all the government benefits. The farm industry is also heavily subsidized. Distribution, transportation is also becoming more expensive. A lot of materials to ship foods are also increasingly becoming less available, and when the food industry is not heavily subsidized, it's also controlled in a few billionaires' hands that have full control over it. Billionaires like Bill Gates, who's the one producing a large majority of McDonald's French fries, carrots, onions, since Bill Gates has recently become the largest farmland owner in the United States. And now Bill Gates' industry that he got into is going to be heavily subsidized even more to the tunes of billions of dollars. I mean, how lucky is this guy to always be at the right time and the right place? And when we look at this latest announcement of Bill Gates trying to prevent food shortages, we have to understand that this is the same person that believes the world is overpopulated. He is also heavily invested in producing fake meat. He has financed efforts to try to black out the sun to fight global warming, and he was one of the largest supporters and backers of Monsanto and their GMO food enterprise that right now is being sued into oblivion after many judges are issuing settlements to a lot of victims of glyphosate, which of course Monsanto heavily used, promoted, and also was caught buying off scientists in order to obfuscate the true effects of, which now we are learning has created massive amount of devastation, and many people are being compensated very heavily because of. So I think it's very fair to say when Bill Gates says that he wants to get rid of pests and weeds to make food quicker, I think it's very fair to say that he is most likely working on a new kind of Monsanto GMO-like initiative that previously before we know could have very grave implications on people's personal health. Now, again, I'm not saying that will happen, but there's a potential for this to happen, as of course, we're dealing with a man that has been described as a ruthless businessman who is known for doing anything and everything to get ahead and to become even richer, as right now there's even a lot of attention put on the man that is behind Bill Gates and his money, and that, of course, is Michael Larson, who, according to the Wall Street Journal, is the man whose job it is to make Bill Gates richer. He's a very secretive, elusive figure, but this is the face of a man that helped Bill Gates increase his wealth, doubling it after, of course, Bill Gates came out on national television and said that he would be donating all of his money to charity. And it really doesn't seem like you're giving all of your money away when you're doubling it. But hey, if the mainstream media says it, it has to be true. And now this same money manager is being accused of, quote, creating a culture of fear for his staff. And of course, the man behind Bill Gates' fortune is going to be a ruthless, money-hungry maniac that, according to The Guardian, routinely abuses his employees, quote, creating a toxic work environment, which many people are speaking out against. And these are the people that the mainstream media wants you to trust without question, as of course they want control of every aspect of your existence. And again, it's not just the money manager, it's also Bill Gates that is facing misconduct allegations. This, of course, as there are many reports of him having a hard time trying to get women from Microsoft to be with him intimately. And oddly enough, this is also the same man who was very close friends with Mr. Epstein, to a point that many people say that this is what led to his divorce. Mr. Epstein, of course, a man who provided underage children to very powerful, rich people. But a Bill Gates representative says that the relationship between him and Epstein was just purely professional. Yeah, sure. That's my particular take on it. If you found it important, share it with your friends and family members. It's more imperative than ever. Double-click the URL link. Without you guys actively getting these videos out there, I wouldn't be here, and I'm only here because of you. This is why I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on WeAreChange.org.